listen, let me explain to you guys this in simple English. Okay? Iran is run by lunatics, religious fanatic lunatics. They have an ambition to have nuclear weapons. They intend to develop those nuclear weapons behind a program of missiles and drones and terrorism that the world will not be able to touch them for fear of those things. And this is the weakest they've ever been. Now is the time to go after them. The president made the decision to go after them, take away their missiles, take away their navy, take away their drones, take away their ability to make those things so that they can never have a nuclear weapon. That's why the president made this decision. It was the right decision. And the world will be a safer place when these radical clerics no longer have access to these weapons. You see how they're using them now. Imagine how they would use them a year from now if they had more of these. All right, I got time for one more.
Your message to Iran's allies, namely Russia and China, who have called for an immediate end to hostilities.
I don't have a message for them, and they're not really a factor here. And our issue is not with them, it's with the nuclear ambitions of Iran.
Absolutely. And are any so-called...
What does Trump's new shipping insurance declaration for the Strait of Hormuz, Iran, Venezuela, and the Panama Canal and China all have in common? Well, come on down this rabbit hole with me, and believe it or not, it starts right here in America with protests. I couldn't help but notice that all the protests in the U.S. within hours of the Iranian strike, this seems pretty well organized. In fact, they're all carrying bundles of signs to distribute to the crowd. Look at the nice yellow, black writing. And have you ever noticed that all the people protesting these airstrikes in Iran have the exact same signs, exact same fonts, exact same colors, and in many cases, some of these appear to be the same people from the Venezuela protest a month ago. Also, these signs look very similar to the ICE Out protests we saw all across the country, starting in Minnesota, too. Why? That's because they're being funded by the same people, well, actually, the same country, China. A New York-based leftist group identified by the State Department as linked to the Chinese Communist Party, the People's Forum, that our own State Department has linked back to China. So who are these folks? They're a New York City-based nonprofit organization, operating tax-exempt, by the way, founded in 2017. And who do they get money from? Oh, look. According to the House Ways and Means Committee, the People's Forum admitted to receiving over $20 million in funding from Neville Roy Singman, wealthy U.S. expat living in Shanghai with long documented ties to the CCP. Fun fact also, this guy's married to Jody Evans. She's the founder of Code Pink, who used to be really critical of China until she got married to him back in 2017. And then she all of a sudden became like awful friendly to China. Weird, right? But the real question is, why would China fund protests in America? This is actually really simple. And this is something that CNN and all their brilliant military and political analysts have all missed. Trump is not doing these strategic strikes and ops in a vacuum. Our number one global competitor and the biggest risk to our superiority, both economically and a bit militarily, China. And since China's doing everything they can to hurt us on trade and currency manipulation and a number of other things, Trump said, okay, I can play that game too, and I'm better at it. You guys, being China, import 70% of the oil to your economy that it requires to function. So, Xi Jinping, hold my beer. China gets, or actually got, 3 to 5% of its oil from Venezuela. It's not a lot, but it's enough of an interest to have China place anti-aircraft radars and surface-to-air missiles in Venezuela to protect those interests that, by the way, we took out in like a nanosecond. So when we kidnapped Maduro, China funded protests here to try to dissuade any further intervention because of political pressure in Venezuela, because they thought they could just install another China-friendly head of state and keep the oil spigot running. Trump shut that down with a naval blockade and letting any potential would-be leader know that we'll snatch you in the middle of the night too. And then started directing that oil towards us.
We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country.
Fast forward a month, came the Iran strikes this weekend. And again, within 24 hours, mass protests here in America with the same signs from the same group, but this time supporting Iran. And would you look at that? China's heavy reliance on Iranian oil, that is why China is funding this round of protests, because In that last month, Trump has taken away over 20% of their oil supply. By the way, that is paid for in the yen, not dollars under the BRICS currency umbrella. 90% of the oil leaving Iran was going to China. Yes, of course, Iran was a state sponsor of terror and has killed thousands of Americans and was building a nuclear weapon, and that was the primary reason to do what he did. However, this was a pretty close second that no one is talking about. And a few libs picked up on this, like screaming, it's all about the oil. Of course it's about the oil. So what? Trump's the first guy to actually not deny that, by the way. Iran has what is believed to be 20 trillion in oil reserves, another 10 trillion in gold, lithium, copper, and a bunch of other things that were all being traded in the yen, not the dollar. These are all factors that go into the global policy, folks. Just so stay with me here. Henry Kissinger knew this, which is why China was challenging the deal he made with the Saudis decades ago that, quote, all oil would be sold in U.S. dollars, the petrodollar. And if America lost that deal, if China came in with the yen and started trading all the oil on the yen, America could actually lose our ability to print money, which would implode our economy with the debt we have. Trump just stopped that dead in its tracks, and no one's giving him credit for it. No one's talking about it. No one's covering it. All these things are related. Trump's push to take back the Panama Canal from China, people laughed at him. They thought it was a joke. But what it did was it actually forced a huge swath of China's trade to spend an extra $30 million per boat to go around South America. Greenland, massive national resources. People thought it was like some pet project. It makes us not reliant on China for rare earth metals, who we know, by the way, China has been securing massive mineral rights all around the world, including moving into Afghanistan right after we left it for lithium mining with their Belt and Road Initiative. It appears Trump is like the only one trying to keep China contained here, too. And everyone else is just absolutely asleep at the wheel. In fact, they're buying the stuff from China en masse rather than from us. You probably noticed that the stock market's going a little bit crazy today. First off, calm down. It'll come right back. It'll be fine. It's one day. Mostly, though, because the Strait of Hormuz being shut down. And everyone jumped in. It was like, how the heck did Iran shut down the Strait? Oh, Trump did, blah, 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 blah. They started freaking out. Iran didn't do anything. You know who did? And this is going to blow your mind.
This is not the age of Churchill. I will say the UK has been very, very uncooperative with that stupid island that they have, that they gave away and took a 100-year lease.
The UK. I know you're thinking, like, the UK, what the hell do they have to do with the Strait of Hormuz? There's a little group called the Mutual Protection and Indemnity Club. That's the IGP&I. It's basically the insurance conglomerate that covers international shipping in that region, in the Middle East region. And no vessel is going to dare to get underway without insurance. Huge amounts of cargo. So it consists of 12 companies in total, all up and down the eastern side of the Atlantic Ocean mostly, 6 of which are based out of the UK. And yes, the same UK that told America that we couldn't use their air bases to stage our assets for the bombing campaign in Iran. Picking up what I'm putting down? This is the same UK that is also heavily reliant on China because they got rid of all their own energy. They need to import stuff now. So my question is, was Keir Starmer pressured by China? Wouldn't be the first time. Were those insurance companies also pressured by China? Also wouldn't be the first time. Because I'm thinking, did China come in and say, hey, look, if we can't have the oil, no one can. Let's figure out a way to shut it down. And did you know that all of those companies, those insurance companies, have huge offices in China? This is all the foreign policy stuff that Trump is dealing with right now. More than half of some of those companies, those insurance companies' revenue relies, not needs, but relies on the ability to operate in China. So they sided with China. And Trump came out and kneecapped everybody and said, you know what? Look, effective immediately. I have ordered the United States Development Finance Corporation to provide, at a very reasonable price, political risk insurance and guarantees for all financial security of all maritime trade, especially energy, traveling through the Gulf. This will be available to all shipping lines. If necessary, the United States Navy will begin escorting tankers through the Strait of Hormuz as soon as possible. So not only did the UK companies bet on China, they just lost all the revenue from the Middle East region in insurance because Trump's going to have the U.S. back the shipping insurance policies now. By the way, that will be cheaper because the U.S. Navy is going to escort ships, making the risk lower, and the cargo ultimately garner revenue for the U.S. of A. Trump kind of for the win. Also makes me wonder what the hell NATO has been doing for the last 50 years.
如果大家都中意我嘅片，請 CLS 啦。